Welcome, Becca Rich, to Straight to the Source.
Thank you
And
so much. I really appreciate you inviting me on.
yeah, I'm really actually super interested to hear about your story and also super excited that this is the first podcast that you've done.
Yes, I'm
You've got
normally
your
on
own
the other
podcast.
side.
You've had some amazing guests. You've been doing some great work. Just remind me, the name of your podcast and some of the beautiful guests you've had. I know you had Mary Rodwell, which was amazing.
Yeah, it's called Voices of Visionaries. And it's really about having conversations with people in the fields of either healthcare, education, or beyond, so consciousness and things. And as you said, like even aliens. And just recently, I had Dr. Katrina Wallace on. She's a global AI entrepreneur and used to be a judge on Shark Tank, which is still one of my favorite shows. So that was a delight. And yeah, we have really interesting, fascinating conversations that definitely enlighten me. So I'm really happy to do that. And I'm in my second season now. So yeah, just one of the
Yeah.
many projects that I'm doing.
Oh, it's about time you're on the other side. But I think, like looking at what you've done with your podcast and the quality of the guests that have been on it is quite incredible. So I just wanted to kind of,
Thank you.
honor that and really kind of bring attention to that because you're obviously very gifted at, connecting with people and also, having them see something that they feel like they want to talk to you, they want to open up to you, and that's a special gift.
Oh,
So
thank you for saying that. I think when I started it not last year, the year before in December 2024, I just went, F it, I'm going to do something like this. And I didn't really do much research. I just went into it. And I was actually quite surprised at the amount of guests that just said yes without me having a following or a big presence. And I thought, okay, yeah, this is great. And I don't just interview, people that have got a following. I would do anyone that has a story, anyone that has a vision. And I think nearly everyone I've asked has said yes. So I appreciate that beautiful compliment. Thank you.
yeah, and I love that. I think there's an alignment even with you know straight to the source. Like this is about telling people stories. It's about
Mm,
and people who are beginning and people who are in the middle of whatever their purpose is, and like people at all levels. Like we all have stories, and it's so important to be able to have an opportunity to resonate with people and to see yourself in their stories, or to have empathy and compassion for maybe something that you've not experienced. And I think it's just so important as human beings that we do more of this. So yeah, it's amazing.
I agree. And I'm sure a lot of us have wounds, and we can really turn them into wisdom. And with that
Yeah.
wisdom, we can do incredible things. And that's what I hope to do with all my projects.
Yeah, amazing. And today, thankfully and graciously, is all about you. So you get to do most of the talking.
It's on
Um,
me.
I just, I just get to chime in from time to time. Have to put Tim aside. It's not easy. It's hard to not make it about yourself. Uh,
You're more than you can easily interject your story as well. I'm really happy to have a conversation. But I appreciate you putting the spotlight on me. You'd think being
yeah,
a
and
Leo and having a podcast that I would like the spotlight, but I have to say, there are still a few nerves about telling your story in a way that you want to give it the credibility and the space that it deserves. And
yeah,
as the first time in telling it all together, I am a little
yeah.
bit nervous.
Yeah, good. I like that. And I love that honesty and vulnerability, and I think that's going to keep showing up throughout our chat. So,
Yes.
yeah, let's get underway. And I do want to kind of go backwards before we go forwards, um,
Yes.
because we all start somewhere, right? We're all little people. And we, all have our nuances, and interestingly enough, obviously, those little inner childs, those selves, so often are still influencing, our outcomes and our healing work and whatnot. So, I'm really interested in like what was it like growing up in your world as a child, like whatever you want to speak to in that period of being brought up? What was your family environment like? Where did you live? Like what was that journey like for you?
Well, normally I say I don't look back unless I'm seeing how far I've come. But I think it's important to do tell that story. So I'm glad that you asked that question. Well, I was born in Birmingham, United Kingdom, as you can tell by my accent. And I grew up in a family of, I had two older brothers. My dad was actually a pioneer in the field of child protection. Unfortunately, he's passed away now, but his work remains, I hope. And it was, I guess, a normal childhood, but to be honest, Tim, I don't actually remember a lot about it. And I think that comes down to definitely some abuse that I've shut out. Sometimes I get flashbacks, and I think I had a past life reading and they were able to pick up on it, but it's something that I don't need to even know, really. I just feel that a lot of my childhood was about trying to be me, and I really never felt like I belonged here. And my mum and dad, they split up when I was a teenager, and that was really hard. And during that period, I was bullied a lot at school, and I was beaten up, outside school, and I was locked in lockers, and really serious, bullying. And I just didn't know who to turn to. And I think in some ways that, which as my story will evolve, is why I'm not that comfortable with traditional schooling, because of mine. And I just couldn't wait to get out of it. And I really didn't know. So my parents divorced, and I can't really remember where they were, and that's not their fault. Every parent is doing the best with the way that they've been brought up. So I was at home, I was getting beaten up, and then I got into drugs at the age of 15, and I was in nightclubs. Like I mean, I can't imagine how a 15-year-old being able to go into Birmingham nightclubs, with a little mini skirt and little backpack. I used to get in, and they were pretty like hardcore, rave. And I remember being given my first drug, and then that just set me up for about 7 years of drug taking until I was 21. And I remember, I'd go to school, and then so on the Friday I'd go to a nightclub, and then the Saturday I would be recovering, and then the Saturday night I would go to a nightclub, and then the Sunday I would go to a nightclub. So I was pretty much partying the whole weekend, numbing out all my childhood, which I'm sure you can relate in some ways.
Many
And
ways.
and this is, I don't know if it's an English thing, but in England you seem to be able to do this, or was it generational? Because this was, this was in the early 90s. And so I was just numbing myself out with all these drugs, and I didn't respect my body. I didn't know the value of consensual love making. Didn't treat myself well. I was quite promiscuous. It was just a really heavy period of my life. But there's something that always stands out, is that I always had this positive outlook. And even though stuff happened to me, I kind of just moved on. I didn't really address it. So I actually, in that period, I left home at 17, and I flew to Gibraltar, which is at the bottom of Spain, for those that don't know. And I worked behind a bar, which you could do at that age. And on my last, I was only there a few weeks. And then I was just made the decision to I don't know, I was like, what should I do with my life? And someone said, why don't you go for a job on a boat that was in the harbour as a stewardess? And then I was like, really? I've never really been on I went on some boats when I was little, because my mum and dad owned a sailing centre, but I've never really thought about that as a job. So anyway, I trot along, go meet this family on this boat, and the owner was German and his wife was American. And it was this 75-foot yacht, and I just went for the interview, and I got the job. And the next day we were off sailing the Mediterranean. And this is, I think, how I've also lived my life. I just feel into my intuition and I just say yes. So I'm on this boat and it ended up being 3 months and it was definitely an experience. I did get sexually assaulted on the boat by one of the guests, and I did find out that well, I noticed the captain was writing on his laptop, through the night when we had to do like night watches. And he was like also, yeah, sort of playing with himself and just really, really odd things. And so I was like, what is he writing? So just being a very inquisitive girl, I went on and found out he was writing like pornos about me, and he knew stuff about me from the boat. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I contacted my parents and I say, oh, this captain is writing things about what he wants to do to me. And they ended up, this is a theme of my life, by the way. I've had abuse in every decade of my life. So I just wanted to point that out. And so I spoke to my parents and they were like, oh, we'll, and my dad, obviously, he's in this space, right? Child protection. He understands the mind of pedophiles and things. And he says, oh, I don't think you need to worry. I think this is his therapy, but just let us, we'll just keep an eye out on you, sort of thing. Unbeknownst to my dad, we were going out like through I think it was like a week out to sea, and you don't have like phone contact. So they were trying to get hold of me and they couldn't. So they ended up getting Interpol out to look for me. And when we finally hit the shore, my dad had told me, like, we've been so worried about you. We thought something had happened to you. And just looking back at that period, there I am on a boat full of strangers. And it was such hard work. Like, they made me polish the gold, and every time they went to the toilet, we had to put the toilet paper into like shapes and things, and I couldn't speak to them unless I was spoken to. But by the end of it, me and the captain's wife got really close, and I was, I remember like lying in the bed with her on top, obviously, and just watching stuff. And I thought, okay, I'm starting to understand people now. I'm starting to understand how to get through adverse situations. And I completed the trip, got home, and that's just a sample of, as a woman, what we do have to go through, unfortunately, because I know that my case is not isolated.
No, definitely
I'll
not. And
pause there. I'll pause there because there's a lot more to come, and I just need to take a breath.
take a breath, and I really appreciate you like sharing so vulnerably so early as well. And as a man, like I have had periods of my life where I was toxic and where I wasn't a safe man. I wasn't like a rapist or anything like that, but I was definitely in wound, and I was definitely, using women and not loving and respecting them. And I think as men, one of the greatest challenges we have is to come back into our protection roles, which is where it began. But we got led so far away from that as women, so often you have to deal with the consequences of these men who have unresolved trauma and or whatever their situation is, and it's very, especially when you're in the ocean, there's nowhere you can go. Like you just know there's no, I'm just going to jump off and see you guys later, like catch you. Wow.
I think there's some naivety there, and I think that I have been naive through my life, but I've also been a Pollyanna. So I've gone, oh, this is happening for a reason. So thank you for that insight and share, because it reminds me also, when I was in the nightclub, we used to take the drugs and then fall asleep. And I remember waking up to a man abusing me in the nightclub. And so this was a pattern that I had, and also just not like valuing myself. And I was a podium dancer in a nightclub for a couple of years, and just in that environment. And I think back now as who I am today, and it doesn't even feel like it's me.
Yeah. Yeah. Did
It's
you get
such a
paid to dance
dark
on the
period.
podium? Did you get
Yes.
paid to dance at the podium? Wow. See, I got a totally unpaid career as a podium dancer. It's like I get a bit of jealousy, a bit of envy there, I think. But the things that we do, it
Oh,
is
you wouldn't
right.
have
It's
liked
like
the outfits. You wouldn't have liked the
probably
outfits they put us in.
wouldn't have worked for me. But yeah, thank you for
But
that
I
image.
can just remember I just wanted to be validated and I wanted to be loved, and I guess I didn't feel that love from my parents. Um, even
Yeah.
though deep down I would have known they loved me, but I think that I did feel abandoned at some level, but that isn't their fault, you know. Um, and then so I can move through the story if you'd like to me to continue.
As soon as you're ready,
Yeah.
yeah, just carry on, like
Okay.
please. Yeah, this is
So
rich
I'm
stuff.
just trying to think of all the there are positives in my story, I promise you.
I know there is.
And, but then also a lot more trauma. So yeah, it was a really challenging period of my life, and I started getting close to my father probably in my early 20s. So he used to get invited to sit in the director's box of Wolverhampton Wanderers. I don't know if you know that team. He knew the manager, Dave Jones, and he used to invite me to sit in the box with him. And there was a really beautiful relationship that I had with my father before he passed on, which I think is important for the listeners and viewers to know that relationships change over time. And so when I thought my dad wasn't around for many, many years, we did get close in my early 20s. And by that point, I'd stopped taking drugs. It's interesting. I just woke up one day and went, I'm done. And I never looked back. So that was about in my early 20s. And then I'd been out to Australia to see my brother get married. And that was, I think, late teens. And then I was driving home with my dad one day and he said to me, "You're not happy, are you?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Would you like to go back to Australia? Like, I'll help you go." And I was like, "Yes." I was like, I couldn't wait, right? So I was like, "Australia, I'm coming." And I really wanted to see it as a fresh start, like a clean slate. I left this broken teenager and young adult that had quite a lot of abuse, and I wanted to come to Australia thinking, well, this is what do they call Australia? Something like
Anything but the I call it the land of milk and honey, but those days are kind of, maybe
I think it's a
the
statement,
land of the
and I just
free.
that's probably not true anymore, though, is it?
That's not true anymore either, but
I just
a
loved
land
it
full of
so much. Pardon?
a land full of poms. That's
Yeah, I was just following everybody else. So got on that plane and I was like, yes. And I was here a year. And then after the year, I was like, I do not want to go back to Birmingham. If anyone's been to Birmingham and all it's famous for is like the boring and the spaghetti junction thing, I don't even know what it's called anymore. I was like, I do not want to go back. And the amount of people that said to me, if you marry an Aussie, you can stay. And Aussies at that point wasn't my cup of tea, right? It was just like more about the friends and the surfs. They looked good, but I wasn't looking for a man as such. So I came, and then the year finished, and I was like, how am I going to stay? So I asked my dad if I could study, which was a better way of getting, staying here. And so I studied this HR diploma because I loved people, and I loved yeah, I just loved all of that HR, human resources. How can you improve people's lives? So then I did the diploma at this college in Sydney, the Australian College of Applied Psychology, and that ran out. And I'm like, how do I keep staying? And then I said, Dad, can I do the degree now? So then I did this degree, which was, God, what was it? Bachelor of Social Science in counselling, and it had all these psychology modalities, and I picked all the children modalities too, everything I could about children. And I started at that point as well. I was volunteering for a lot of children's charities. So the Starlight Foundation, I'd go into the hospital, and then I was a Wish granter at one point, and then there was a San Filippo Children's Foundation, and there was a few others. So I love children, and
Yeah.
I always wanted children as well. And so I also did babysitting. And I remember there was one lady who employed me as like a fairy. So I used to dress up as a fairy and go and babysit children. And that was, yeah, just loved kids. So I did the degree, and then I finally had enough points to stay. But it was funny because they changed the legislation, and I lost points, and then I didn't have enough, but I had to sit an English exam to get the points to then be able to stay. So there I am in an English exam, writing, speaking, reading, and I'm like, do they not know that I'm English? I nearly didn't pass one though. I can't remember which one it was, but that was quite funny. I'm probably going into way too much detail, so I will move this along. Um, so got my degree. I think it was like average distinction. So I was like, because I didn't have many qualifications from school, it was a really big thing for me to get such a high grade, because it's quite nerve-wracking going back into education when you didn't do well at school. Obviously, I was bullied so much, and I'd left at like 15 or 16, whatever it was. And to finally have something that I did, 40 assessments on and everything, was just such a big tick for me. And I think that's also great for people to know that school's not everything,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
can do higher education. So I finished the degree, and at that point, I was looking. I really wanted to be a mom, and take a big deep breath. And so I was looking for that special man, to to marry and have children, because that was one of my dreams growing up, was to have that beautiful family that I'd always dreamed about. And I'm just going to take a drink of water because I know what's coming, as you do.
I do. And can you just, what kind of age are we talking about now? Is this
Yeah,
like,
so
like 20?
I was 26. I was 27 when I finished the degree, and then I met my then husband um, soon after. So,
Yeah.
and then my dad died. So my dad actually came to. This is an interesting story. He came to my graduation, and I just felt so proud and that he was there. And then on my last day of seeing him, I just had a feeling it was my last time, because I think we have this intuition, don't we, where we just pick up on things. And I remember him getting out the car, and I drove off, and I said to my husband at the time, I said, I think that's the last time I'm going to see him. I didn't know why. I mean, I knew he was quite unhealthy, and yeah, he died about I don't know if it was a few weeks later or a few months now. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I don't normally cry when I talk about him. So um, so yeah, I just had that feeling. And so he passed on, and then yeah, and then I was in a great relationship, and I fell pregnant, and then I miscarried, which is more pain. I think people don't realize that there's a really high chance of you miscarrying your first baby, and I don't think there's enough awareness about that. So, but then I fell pregnant again, which was, yeah, I mean, behind me are all the books that I read about becoming a parent, and it was everything I
Yeah.
dreamt about. So I might just pause.
Yeah.
So, for those first 2 years of being a mom was the best. I breastfed my son, and
Absolutely okay, sister. I see you. I see you.
I've got tissues right here.
Yeah, I see you.
People are probably wondering, why is she crying so much? uh,
We're getting up to that part. We'll get there. We're not there yet.
it just feels still so raw, and I just didn't know there's all these emotions were in here. This is like, are you my counselor? um,
Well,
okay.
maybe there's as much healing in the telling of the story
Yeah,
as
there
there
is.
is revealing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it's like, when was the last time you told all of this
I've never
to
told it.
somebody
Not all of it.
that,
I've done a little
no,
bits, and I've done a few videos, but in its entirety, it's like, and I actually have it on my website. I have a page where I've got my events, because I wanted to show people how resilient you can be, and I'll get to that. I just got to finish this part. So yeah, I love being a mom, and I was always wanting to be the best mom I could. Um, then I fell pregnant with my second child, um, and I was quite sick. I've been quite sick in both pregnancies, and
yeah,
my mum happened to be able to come and help me at that point. And I think that's where the connection with my first son started getting broken. It was just not being able to be there for him. And there was a moment where, well, a period, not over a window, about 3 weeks, where we moved house. My eldest started daycare, and my son was born. In fact, the as soon as I dropped that last box, when I moved into the house, I went into labor. So there I am at this house, and then my mom left. So there was so much change, and I would have suffered postnatal, I think, but like what I've always done, I've just picked myself up and tried to do it all by myself. I don't want to burden people with my problems. I'm positive, right? My cup's always half full. So I can do this alone. And my husband was, very hard working for the family, and he was away a lot working, and it was just me and these two precious children. And that was pretty much the start of what I call a very hellish parenting journey. Not because I didn't love my children, but because systems don't allow a mother to use their intuition when it comes to what's best for their child. And bless my eldest, he had what I call symptoms of trauma, but in the medical world, they want to diagnose with ADHD and autism. And it was a very long journey. We're talking 4 years of appointments, and like, honestly, it was not how I had envisioned parenting at all. It was a struggle every day, and I couldn't even work out how to get through it, because everyone I went to, whether it was a clinical psychologist, whether it was a pediatrician, everyone just wanted to diagnose and medicate, and intuitively that's just not what I'm about. And when my son started school, there was another layer of issues there. And until someone walks in the shoes of a parent going through this, no one can really quite understand the amount of stress on a daily basis. And especially being expats, because my husband didn't have support here either. And there isn't, the community is broken, right? There's no, what do they say? It takes a village to raise a child. Well, there really was no village. And when everything's left to you as a mother, it's really hard, especially in a world that doesn't get it, you know, that's built on systems of power and control and money. And I was like, right, I'm going to go and find out what's really going on. I'm going to find out what these labels are, what's going on with these children, because I know that he's had a lot of trauma, this little boy, and I won't go into, you know, what trauma he had, but he's special and he's sensitive, and school's not fitting him, and I'm struggling and he's struggling, and if the mother's struggling, how is the child going to regulate? And I'm just in this vicious cycle of not knowing how to get up, but just doing a hell of a lot of research, because I am like the research. I was going to say research queen, but that makes me sound a bit pompous, and I definitely don't want to be the queen. But I just love researching and finding out what I could. So yeah, so I got to a point when it got really bad with school, and I got to the point where I did have a thought that I wanted to end my life. And I know that many of us have that thought, right? And it's about what you do at that choice point. And I didn't, because I'm still here. Mic drop. But what I did do to get through it, and it wasn't very long, I pulled my son out of school to homeschool him, and I devastatingly left my husband, and that was all within a week of each other. And but then I just, like a lotus right out of the mud, it was like I took control. I took power back for my life and my boy's life, and it was incredible. It was still had its challenges, but I would say with what I had learned through that period, and it was right where COVID started as well. It was like all that period, and I was like, right, you know, I'm gonna change his diet, and I'm gonna be with him and connect with him and be present with him, and do things with him. And I came out with this. I realized there was like a niche in the market, and I realized that I could help other mums. And so I came up with this name called Life School, LIFESKOOL. Life is cool. And one of my son's first tasks was to do the logo. And so, you know, and so my homeschooling was different to mainstream homeschooling. It was about supporting his needs in whatever way I could, but using life, right? Using things that we need to know, and doing practical things, and teaching him about the world. And if I had my way, I would do world schooling and take children around the world and show them cultures and show them what it means to connect with the human, and be really great humans. And it was working. You know, my son was really improving. We were both finally happy. And yeah, unfortunately, it didn't continue that way. And I won't talk about why, because there was no like blame here. But that was a huge a really moment in my life again, where I had to use my intuition about what to do next. Because it shifted, I was really concerned that my mental health would suffer again. And yeah, I temporarily got away for a while, and kind of I wouldn't say moved. I just needed some space to work out how to make sure that I could survive the next stage. I think when you have parents on different pages when it comes to how you parent your children, that's a really big thing that I feel that people need to know before they settle down. It's a big key thing in my story is knowing how you each parent, because if you do have different views, it can really play a part in the dynamic of the family. During that period, I started writing a book. Wow, I'll go back a step. So when COVID hit and I was with my son, I came up with this idea for this show, and I called it The Crap Cook. And I realized that when you're trying to change a child's diet and you're having to replace the ingredients with healthy ingredients, I was like, so bad. And I remember I had all this filming equipment in my kitchen. And I remember going, oh my God, I've been trying to make these pancakes for my son. And I've done 3 rounds and they still come out so bad. And I saw like the equipment in the corner and I went, oh my God, I could do a show like you do. And I started putting the equipment up and I got 6 episodes out. And my goal was to like lift people up through the pandemic. Because I was one of these people, weird people that didn't abide by the rules because I knew what it was, and I was like, I'm not getting vaccinated, I'm not wearing a mask. I was like, I'm healthy, I'm going to stay sovereign, but I'm going to help other people through it. And so I did this show and I never released it. I'm starting to put them now on my new YouTube channel, but I only showed it to like a few friends because I just wasn't ready to put myself out there, and it may not have gone anywhere anyway. And so but then I had this idea for a doco, and I was like, okay, well, I've been in front of the camera, and now I know I can do something. And I had this doco because I was like, people need to know what's going on with this ADHD thing, and I was like, I've just helped my son. I need to let people know. And so, I called the doco Beautiful Souls, and I was like, right, I need to make this film. So from there, it's been nearly 5 years, and I've experienced both emotional and physical separation from my children. Something sometimes known as child and mother sabotage or alienation, but that term is debated. But it kind of really reflects what's going on and the real challenges of wanting to be a mother, but then being restrained from that. As you can see, I'm being very mindful of my words. And I hope people probably going, well, I don't understand, Due to legal restraints, there's certain parts of my story that I'm not allowed to say. But what I found was, from that element of my story, is that there were all these other mothers, intelligent, loving, protective, amazing mothers that are in similar situations. And they, for whatever reason, can't get access to their children. And there are so many supports for every type of industry or every type of problem. But I realized with this that there isn't. And you could say, well, that would tip any mother over the edge, especially someone that's endured some of the experiences I have. But what I've done with that experience is I've become a better version of me. I've become strong and resilient, and I find the bigger meaning in all of this. I look at my life now through a very spiritual lens, and I'm also here to help other mothers going through it. And in fact, just yesterday, I set up a community, and I am going to be supporting other mothers that are going through a similar situation at no fault of our own. again, it comes down to the systems, like it was with my child, the education and medical system. And there's a whole nother world that people don't realize is out there. And not just even mothers, but fathers too. Just parents that are loving, that want to have a relationship with the children, and they can't. And it's devastating for not only the parents, but also for the children that are stuck, are involved in all of that, because they deserve to have both their mother and father in their lives. And there shouldn't be systems out there or people that are traumatized, that are using their trauma to cause and create this harm for their families or for their children. And it really just breaks my heart. And this is obviously from my perspective, because I'm going through it. And I really feel that I'm here to help shine the light on these types of stories. And it's not just this one, it can be abuse, or it can be anything. And it's about where we get to in our journey, and how resilient we can be. I say that life is happening, for us, not to us. And how can I transform all of the negative things that have happened in my world into something positive? My children are like the reason all these projects exist, and the work I'm doing as a legacy, that I'm creating for them, and a way to hold love and hope, no matter what life brings. So
Yeah.
if my boys are watching this as well, I love you so much, and mummy couldn't do it without you. So thank you.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
positive.
And I think
A lot.
like I love what you're saying. And like it's almost like I think the spiritual element becomes so important, because the deeper understanding of why we choose to be who we are, and soul contracts, and like the repeating cycles, like internal lessons in this life for us, like rejection and abandonment, like you were talking about earlier. This like theme of rejection and abandonment is a core theme in this life that you've chosen, and I totally resonate with that, because it's mine as well. Like so many things that you've talked about have just been like, whoa, like just I'm not even going to talk about it, because it's too much. It's like just too much resonance. But I think also, like, in hearing what you were saying, like it's a rejection from the system as well, right? Because like if as we open up to ourselves and we have a deeper intuitive knowing of ourselves and what's playing out in the system has to come at us because we're a threat to it. So, you saying, I want to, help my son to heal without medication and without taking the advice of all these so-called experts, and like, you know what I mean? You kind of make yourself a target. You then get rejected by that system too, because it's like, well, no, you have to do what these experts say, but it's like, that doesn't feel right to me. That's not what's in my heart and what my child's best interests are.
I know, and you make a good point, because that's all I endured, was just doors closing and not listening to me. And in those years of saying to the doctors that I don't think my son has this, I think it's trauma, and this is how I want to operate, they just don't listen. And
Yeah.
it's why I have a negative view of these industries, because they're not empowering the parent to know what's best for their child. And
Yeah.
when you're up against the systems, I mean, look where I am. I'm a loving, safe mother, and I've been unable to parent my children, as I wanted to for the last 5 years. And it's devastating. Mine's not even the worst story that I've heard.
Yeah.
Some of these women, they go to jail. Some of these women go through it for years and years and years, and then their children reject them when they're adults, because they believe that their mother never loved them. Um,
Yeah.
I don't stop trying to connect with my children. I'm one of these I mean, I'm one of these mums that's just like one of those mama bears, right? That just always looking for ways through. And I did create a website called tomychildwith.love, which is there to help support parents and give them ideas on ways to be creative in trying to find a way through to your children. So I take something that's happening and I try and create something positive out of it. Like even with the pandemic and all the vaccine injuries, I've created a website called yellowheart.love, and that's to help people with their injuries. And this isn't a conspiracy. I think a lot of us know what's been happening, and I think that's why I did the podcast as well. It's just shining the light on these systems and looking at different ways of doing it, and nurturing who we are as a mother and as a father, and also everyone that's doing something negative is coming from their wounds, right? Whatever wounds they've happened between 0 and 7. And so if you have a parent and they're doing this to the other parent, it's unmet needs. It's they didn't feel love enough when they were younger. I mean, we don't want to stipulate the theories, but we kind of know that if someone felt complete love and was able to work through any of their wounds, like and you have a choice too, right? I'm not saying that everyone that's gone through something is going to be like that, but we can transmute all of that stuff into something that we start treating people with love and kindness. And I think
Yeah.
so many people nowadays are stuck in the 3D ego, and fear and the control, and they don't understand that we're all loving human beings. Like at our core, we are love. And so let's start
Yeah.
treating everybody like that. We're all connected. I love the way you call me sister, in our communications, because we're all one big family. So however you treat someone is how you're treating yourself. And I can bet that I can put money on that everybody that's doing this, it doesn't matter what you're doing to another human being, is that you're not happy.
Yeah.
I put money on that you can't be happy if you're doing this to another person. And
Yeah.
I think we have to hold compassion and understanding for these people. And so I do, because that's who I am. And I don't want to be anything but authentic. And I know that with AI coming in, authenticity is the currency of the future.
Yeah.
So let's just be,
Yeah.
honest, authentic. Let's treat people that we want to be treated, and with kindness and respect and love, and imagine the world and how that would look.
Yeah. And look, I really love so much of what you're sharing about, and what was coming up when you were talking, because I have friends on both sides of this situation. I know some men who have like really copped it, like, like you have, just in their own unique way. And there seems to be this really polarized energy playing out in a lot of these situations. And I think it's mirroring what's been playing out in the collective, like even through COVID and all that stuff. There was a real polarization of people who were fighting for freedom and people who were fighting for safety and compliance, right? And I think like that's also playing out energetically in relationships. Because if you leave fear unchecked, it creates control. But love overrides everything: fear, shame, guilt, all of those things. But I'm seeing these people, and the people, I got just full goosebumps, the people who are caught in that trauma state, that child's trauma state, and the fear state, can't do anything other than manipulate and control, because that is the offshoot of that fear. Whereas you're coming at it from a space of love and confronting maybe more fear than all these people are confronting all of this attack, and they're still coming at it with love. And they're still coming at it with love. And I think that's the two timelines that we have an opportunity for now in humanity. We choose love or we choose fear. And it's like fear tries to destroy and love tries to create. And I love that, like that literally plays out for you in your creations. Like you are creating purpose from these pain points. And I think it's magnificent. I think it's amazing and horrible at the same time, because like it's what's happening is horrible, but it's driving so much beauty and purpose.
Wow, you nailed it. Yeah, we're choosing
Wow.
either love or fear, and that's everyone's story, right? Like there is also no right or wrong for whatever your soul has contracted. And I think
Yeah.
seeing that bigger picture, like I've gone through the dark nights of the soul, 7, 8 years ago when I was dealing with it all, I didn't know what it meant. And then I'm like,
Mm.
I'm on this spiritual path, and I'm like watching Gaia, which is like that Netflix for spirituality world. And I'm like watching all these other people on YouTube, like Alex Ferrari on Next Level Soul. And I'm learning about like, what's the meaning of me being here? Why am I here? And all of a sudden it opens up this world that you didn't even know existed. And I think that's the only reason that I'm so strong and resilient, because most of the women that I communicate with that are going through something similar, it's a really struggle, and some of these women aren't surviving. And I think having that spiritual lens and seeing a bigger picture for what I've gone through is definitely helped me. And I mean now I'm, as you were talking about manifesting earlier, was that on the first version or this one? I forget. Um,
We should talk
um,
about it again. You're a
it's like the
you're a
first take.
manifesting bloody legend.
Um, I've got an incredible life outside of what I've gone through. I've manifested the most beautiful soulmate in my partner, nearly together 4 years. I live in a beautiful part of the world. But my children did get to see for a while, which was great. And their energy's here. And I mean, you should see the house. It's got all their photos everywhere. You can see one up there, um, next to the love word. And yeah, I'm 47. I have no health. I'm nearly 47. I've got no health issues. You can really turn all this pain into something positive with the right mindset, and looking at the big picture on what you can help people with. You know, I was saying
Yeah.
to someone the other day, who, when they hear your story, they're just like, it's like you feel like you have to dampen down how strong you are in some cases. But I'm just like, if all this hadn't happened, I wouldn't be able to do all this work.
Yeah.
And if I didn't know, if I didn't have my dark nights of the soul, and went through some of the most, I mean, even the point where I was suicidal or had suicidal ideation, grief and trauma and all of that is really the greatest transformer. And I truly believe that, because when I look at my life even 10 years ago, and I'm sitting here talking to you, Tim, and how I am today, it is like chalk and cheese. And I'm just waiting patiently for the shift to happen, and for and I believe it is. I believe that this story is going to be redundant soon. I hope
Yeah.
so. And I just have these big dreams of how the future is going to look. And I just believe in, yeah, coming from the heart as much as I can through my work.
Yeah. And I think the real one of the real challenges in these situations is the reckoning of divine timing. You know what I mean? Like as a human being, like we want, we want things to be resolved. We want to have what we desire. We want to show our love. We want to connect. We want all of this, right? We want it now. Like we wanted
Yeah.
it yesterday, but now's as good a time as any. But like, you know what I mean? Then confronting like uh, divine timing and potentially what's behind that divine timing that we don't truly comprehend, which could be balancing karma from a past life, could be balancing aspects from numerous lives. Sitting in this opportunity for soul learning, you know for me, for example, like I've got a 34-year-old daughter who's just not really ever been interested in knowing me. So having to sit in here again in that big, huge rejection and abandonment wound, which was the gift from my father, then the gift from me to her. Now it's a gift from her to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's a way bigger picture, I know, karmically, with that relationship that I have to sit with. And that's a part of what I chose in this life. And it's sad, and sometimes it's frustrating, and it's purposeful and meaningful. So yeah, just also honoring that, we always want to show love, if especially when we get to this point where we've done a lot of work on ourselves and we're like, we're not those people anymore. We're not them. We're just not there, and we're just not there anymore. And so, yeah, just I think that's why we need to have people around us that see us as who we are now, and really get that and honor that, and acknowledge that. And I just want you to feel that from myself, from Elise, even from Isabel, you know, how much we see you and what you're doing. And it's, yeah, we just want to honor that here right now, and just you to feel that, and as much as you can, and take it away from today, because you're here doing like great work and important work. And yeah, I so
God, you're making
appreciate
me
the
yeah. That's so
yeah.
beautiful. And can I just remind though, into your situation, even when they're adult children, I can still imagine the pain. It doesn't change no matter what age they are. So my heart goes out to you, and I hope that your daughter does see your work and eventually does come back, because she's missing out on you and your love and your kindness and what you're giving to the world as well. And that goes for all of the adult children out there that have whatever reason they don't fully connect with their parents, and some, I understand, some for good reason, um, and you've got to have your boundaries up,
Yeah.
but when they're as loving and kind as you, yeah, I hope that that shifts too. And thank you for the compliment and for seeing me. It can be a very lonely journey, when you view the world differently, when you're the black sheep of the family. And it has been, there's been people that have judged me, people not understanding the situation, people that haven't walked in my shoes. um, I lead by my intuition, and I do what I feel is necessary. And we do have to sometimes put our own health and well-being first, because if we don't, we're not going to be around there for our children, and for the people that love us. So it's okay to put your mask on first. Like when the analogy with the plane, they tell you to put your mask on first before you can help others. And it's the same, that some decisions people may have looked at and thought, God, that's so selfish of her. Like, what is she doing? But you do something to help maintain your mental health, to make sure that you're around. And some of my decisions have been that, but it has been a very isolating journey. And I know that when I was vocal through the pandemic on social media, I did lose people along the way. But hopefully, yeah, we just want people to, I even hate the word wake up, it's so overdone. But the awakening's happening, the new earth is within us. And I'm really excited about what's coming, and also just being able to find my purpose and find my why. There's this really great quote I love by Mark Twain, the American author, which is, the two most important days of your life are the day you find out, the day you were born, and the day you find out why. And I think that rings true for everybody. If everybody could find their purpose, it would make them get out of bed no matter what type of grief or challenges they're going for. And I definitely do think that my purpose has kept me going, my bigger why.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think it reminds me of a saying that I heard from John D. Martini, which it really stuck with me, was when the whys are big enough, the hows take care of themselves. And I
Love it.
always remember, you know what I mean? It's like when your why is so deep and so embedded in your heart, it doesn't matter what the world throws at you. Like, we'll pick ourselves back up time and time again, and we'll keep running at it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
that's everything. That
completely
that is
agree. Um, I used to say to people that when they would say, "Well, how are you managing? Like, how are you still here?" Because I would just die through the amount you've gone through. Um, I would just say, well, I'll just say it's my purpose, it's my why that's kept me going. And then it's also meeting this beautiful man that came along just at the right time as well. You can still manifest in the despairs of grief and trauma. And it's just, as I said, keeping that open heart and that belief in something bigger than yourself and the reason that you're here.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's so interesting, you know, again, like what you've attracted um, in your new relationship is a reflection of who you're being now. You know what I mean? Like it's literally the world's a mirror. What's it reflecting back to us, and why? It's like when you find love at a transcendent level and you get appreciation that was not there before, is because you're loving and appreciating yourself at a new level, and you get that mirrored
Exactly.
back to you in the person who stands up and says, I'm willing to love you, because you're willing to love yourself.
Exactly. And I feel that, you know, how there's that where you get stuck into those vicious cycles of attracting the same type of people. It is, as you
Yeah,
say, a mirror. Um, and that's why, you know, both my partner and I, we continually work on ourselves using personal growth, you know, literature or docos or something. We want to keep improving and raising our consciousness, and so that we
yeah.
can still be yeah, I think that, you know, it's not a competition, but I definitely know that if I was lagging, you know, he could keep shining his light ahead of me. And it's just about, you know, and there's that whole thing around, you know, you meet your other half. Well, I remember listening to that growing up. You don't want to meet your other half, but it's not your other half, right? Your whole is yourself. And it's a
Yeah,
frequency that you send out that when you've done the work, you will meet somebody at your level. And so I encourage
yeah,
people to keep working on yourself, like learn and, you know, watch Gaia or, you know, pick up spiritual books, see there's a bigger meaning. One of the books I recommend the most is Your Soul's Plan by I always get this confused, Robert Schwartz or Richard
Robert
Schwartz.
Schwartz. Robert Schwartz.
And it's just
Yeah,
one book that just transformed my life. I was like, wow, I'm the creator of everything in my life. And
yeah.
I mean, I
That
love it.
is, yeah,
So if there's one book that
you,
I'd recommend everybody read, it's that one. And it definitely shifts you. Like you and I, Tim, you know, we're sitting here having this podcast. Whenever it's meant to go, it will go. Whoever's meant to see it will see it at the right time. Someone might look at
yeah,
me and go, oh, she's a nut job, or someone might say, oh, I love what she's saying. But ultimately it's what they're thinking and what their mindset is at that point of seeing it, right? And I'm
yeah,
just really excited for these conversations and for also what you're putting out into the world, because this will help shift the people that are open to it.
yeah,
And I feel like even with my podcast, your podcast, and all these others, it is the time. And
yeah.
that just
It is.
makes my heart so happy. And I know that the children as well are coming into a world and being um, with the right parents and conscious parents with the right support and love and education, because the current education model is don't don't get me going on that. That's a whole nother podcast.
Don't get me going on that.
All the
That you can read
ADHD.
my book and hear my thoughts on that. Like,
In fact, I was writing a book. Well, I am, but it's been paused for quite some time, called ADHD and its impact on families.
yeah,
And I do have a couple of free chapters that I will put on my website if anybody wants to go and download them, because I have so many projects going, and because I go with my intuition, I just feel into them at the time. But going back to the children, yeah. So I'm excited for the world that they're going to be grown up in. Um, and there'll be some people who are watching the news still that are like, "What is she on about? Does she not watch the news?" And I'll be like, "No, I
No.
don't watch the news. I will stay in my love bubble, thank you." Instead of the fear
Yeah.
porn that's out there. So turn off the news, go into your heart, feel into your
Yeah.
intuition, and all your answers are there.
Yeah.
And we're gonna
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
create such a beautiful world for our children in the future. And I don't care what anyone says about AI and all the rest of it. I know who we are and I know what's coming. I shouldn't say I know what's coming because that just sounds like it's too short. I believe I know what's coming. And it's going to be
Yeah.
magical for the ones that are awake to it.
Yeah, and I agree, and like I totally like and just want to underline dot cross and exclamation mark Your Soul's Plan by Robert Schwartz. Like that book is like that is like I it literally I mentioned that book on the podcast yesterday with Catherine
Oh,
Ham.
right, did you?
Like in my top two books of transformational books to change your view on everything, along with Michael Newton, Your Soul's Journey,
Journey of
Journey of
Souls, is
Souls.
it?
My
Yeah.
Journey
I
of
actually
Souls
haven't read
is
that
like
one
that.
yet.
Those two are like right up there, changed my life, blew my mind, changed everything. But I love that, again, disconnecting from all of the external distractions and coming back internally is really where the truth lies. And
Yeah.
I even like, I think even AI, like I was like dead against AI, like, and now I'm just like, but AI is just a reflection of our innate potential. Like it's
Yeah.
literally mirroring back what we can actually do ourselves. And it could be the solution, it could be the problem, it's going to be probably both. But like if we see that we have that potential within us, then we will see that AI is just a reflection of that externally again. Like, you know what I mean? We
Yeah.
have that innate brilliance, that innate kind of capacity to know things we cannot know
Mm,
once we connect with our intuition. So it's fascinating.
it is. And you know what? We don't get taught this stuff in school. And I wonder why.
Oh,
It's just another indoctrination, isn't it? It's unbelievable what I found out during those years. And I think that's what
yeah,
the hardest thing for me is having to really understand about my journey is that I wanted to be
yeah,
a mom. It was my life. It was everything to me. And I wanted to be the best mom. And then it just didn't go the way that the opposite of how I envisioned. Like we're talking right down the end of the scale. It couldn't have gone any worse, really.
yeah,
And for the amount of compounded trauma, obviously if you lose your child, that's devastating, but like the compounded trauma and stress over that period, and then the loss from a physical and emotional perspective of grieving children that are alive but you can't get to them. It was like I just couldn't really get my head around it. But sitting here today is I understand. And that has taken a long time. So people that her mother's watching this will be like, I don't get it. But when you've been on that journey, you've done as much research as I have, and I didn't watch TV for years, and all I was doing was reading books and watching docos and immersing myself in as much information about the truth as I could find. And I think that we've forgotten a lot of that. And it's yeah, as I said, it's exciting times. and
yeah.
I, and I
Well,
think
I
that
think, sorry, you go.
no, you go, it's fine.
I was going to say it's like when you were talking at what I think we've all come to understand, those of us that have kind of realized, hang on a second, there's something not quite right here, is that it's upside down. Like it's like what IFK Junior's come out and said, the food pyramid's upside down. It's like it's all upside down. Like
Everything
it's
is upside
literally
down.
we live in an inverted reality. It's a paradox. Like people like, and it's difficult because once you start to question all the things that need to be questioned, you realize it's upside down. Like it's actually like what they're saying on the news is they're making the villain into the hero and the hero into the villain, and like the way that they teach people at school is completely upside down. Like the way that they deal with the medical, like everything's inverted reality.
Everything.
Um,
It's like
everything,
whatever they
like
tell
pretty much
you, whatever they tell
do
you,
the
do the
opposite.
opposite.
It's it's that
It's
it's
so
like
much
unfortunately,
programming. It's so much program. And I
yeah.
felt like through those years, I felt like I was unschooling myself. Even though I hated school and I was bullied through a lot of my high school, I detested it with a passion. I was like, what am I doing here? And then since I've learned out that so much you learn at school is not even true, or it's obsolete, or it's just you don't even use.
Yeah.
I mean, I see my partner's teenage daughter doing her homework, and I really want to interject and say, just throw that all out. I don't use any of that stuff. I mean, you spend so long in school, and what do you come away
Yeah.
with? I used to say from school, I came away with trauma and a drug addiction. I mean, that's really what
Mm,
I came away with school. And I've had to, in the last 10 years, undo that all. And there's
yeah.
people paying hundreds of thousands of dollars on sending their children to private school. And I'm just like, what for? These children are, they're not mentally well. They don't understand what good relationships are and how to communicate, and what are they teaching
Yeah.
these children in schools. I said I wouldn't get there, so I'm going to stop. But it is, I just it's I feel like I've had 100 lives in one life. I
Yeah.
was on When I was on the
Yeah.
boat, actually, and when I was 17, I already thought I had a colourful life up until that point. And I remember lying there and I just had this thought. I was like, oh, they could make a movie or a series about my story so far. And I don't know why it just popped into my head. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's happened in the last whatever it is, 30 years. I'm like, oh, there's definitely a Netflix series in here somewhere.
Yeah, or a trilogy of
Maybe not
movies
on
or
Netflix.
like maybe not for Netflix.
No,
No. I don't
maybe
think
for
that it'll
conscious
just end up,
media.
yeah, it'll just end up inverted again. They'll twist it on you and, all of a sudden, back to the system. That's where you get your answers. The doctor, he'll help you.
Well, I'm glad to.
They do it.
It is encouraging though, because once you're on this journey, you start then attracting other people on the journey, and then you don't feel so crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And community, I think that's so key, right? It's so important. And like, in COVID, we were like, we were this little poor little beacon that was under attack. Like you dare to put something up about against the narrative and like, wow, like we copped it, right? And now, like when I go and like have a little bit of a scroll around and have a look at some of the posts that these news channels are putting out, there's like people like us everywhere. It's like, wow, this is amazing. Like, there's so many more people now that are like, yeah,
How would you
standing up.
define us, Tim? I'm just curious.
Um, I would define us as truth seekers. The reason why we hate school and we didn't fit into the system is because it pushes against our intuition, which knows that this is the place where lies reside and not where truth is encouraged. And so I think we had to get out of all of those systems. Like I've worked in my own businesses most of my life because I just couldn't deal with indoctrination and people trying to have authority over me and abuse that kind of power. So I think we're the truth seekers, which is why we're the black sheep. We're the ones who are bringing the truth into the light. We're the ones with the courage to stand up against it because we've always had to. And yeah, I see us as the light bearers, the lighthouses, the changers of all things. I don't know. That's how I see you. That's how I see us.
Beautiful. I know that was me sitting into the host seat, but I was just curious. And yeah, we're very aligned like
Yeah.
that. And And I've said about the pandemic that I guess the only positive to come out of it was that it did help people awaken and
Yeah.
question what we've been told and the government, and become sovereign beings. And I definitely feel that that's probably one of the only positives to come out of it. We're definitely in
Yeah.
that in that shift of people waking up and feeling into themselves, and getting into their heart and their truth, as we mentioned before. So
Yeah.
it's
I'm gonna ask you
a time to be
one good
alive.
question, I reckon.
Pardon?
It's an amazing. So I'm gonna ask you one interesting question. Like we've done a lot. We've obviously we could talk for hours. Like there's when you've been alive for 47 years, like you got 47 years of history you could talk
46.
about.
Sorry.
46.
I'm
Ah,
nearly
well, you've
47.
got your own age. You
My
must
age
be
is
getting
just a
old.
number.
I'm 56. Don't worry about it. It is just a number. Um, but I was going to ask, what do you feel is birthing, like from a future visions aspect, from like all of everything that you've been sharing? Like, what do you feel like the future's opening up through who you're being from the experiences that you've had?
Great question. Well, because of what I've gone through, obviously this is more of a personal thing. I envision a world where obviously children are reunited with their loving parents. That would be sort of number one. Where I'm all about the children, right? So where children feel valued and respected and truly honored for who they are. Um, I believe in reincarnation. So some of these children have souls that are older than us. And so it's really about listening to the children and giving them the right and beautiful love filled and honest environment for them to blossom in. Um, because as you know from my story, it's always been about the children for me. I haven't
Yeah.
spoken much about my plans for what life school is going to be, and I may just speak to that now if I may. So as you remember in the story, I wanted to create life school, and at the moment it's an online platform for parents of neurodivergent children, to go on and have a look at the resources. But I do have this vision where I want to create more of a community hub in local areas, using a lot of what I've learned over the years to really educate and guide the children of the future, based on what we know about them. And they are all beautiful souls, and they've been, in the systems that we are, they've all been trying to fit into this kind of box that doesn't suit every child. And every child has such a beautiful way of viewing the world. So it's really nourishing that. And I have so many ideas for that, which obviously I parked, but I really hope to bring that to my community first, and then hopefully we can roll that out. There's obviously a lot more to that, but I just wanted to talk about my vision. I envision people being able to speak their truth, and not remain silent on things that matter. I think that so many people, they can witness stuff that's going on, but they're too fearful to come out and speak. So speak out, speak your truth. I'd love to be able to see that. I envision a world where people remember who they are, and people remember
Mhm.
that we're all love, and to treat people with kindness and respect. And maybe that's too Pollyanna-ish, but we're all connected, and I would just love everyone to get back to the core of who they are, and we can start living in communities where it's respect and kindness, and people can work out what they're here for, and generally, you know, creative projects. I'm sure people that are listening or watching, they've got something inside them that they really want to do, but fear has stopped them. So let's all bring our creative projects to the world. You know, let's put that fear in the 3D world and the ego, and let's move through 4D, 5D, and we can really start making changes and really create that beautiful world for future generations. So I hope that I see that in my lifetime, and I hope that I'm a part of that, even for my children and for other children, because yeah, these children are just so beautiful, and I can't wait to be able to hug my children again and tell them how much I love them. I wanted to end on positive.
Yeah.
Did I cover
Yeah.
that, or was it
Yeah.
too wordy?
No, not at all. I think, you know, and I love that. I think that what you're speaking into is the high vibrational timeline, which you mentioned it, I talked a lot to it, it's just like the New Earth template. Like the New
Yeah,
Earth template is like it's just a circle closing again. It's coming back to where we began, and we were drawn so far away from it, but we're coming back
we're coming
to
back.
realizing that we have to come together, we have to work together, we have to create together from a space of love. And there is two timelines playing out. There's fear and there's love. There's people who are living and working and completely living in this realm, and there's people living and working in here. And it seems that they're just, you know, traveling concurrently. And a lot of the, you know, indigenous prophecies talk about these two potential paths and timelines playing
Yeah,
out, and it's happening. So I see that, and everything that you were talking about then to me was New Earth template, New Earth template, New Earth template, and it's as much a way of being as it is then extrapolating actions from that, right? It's
yeah,
coming from love.
yeah, yeah. I
So
said
I love it.
I said recently on one of my Facebook posts is I ask myself, how would love respond in this situation? And that's, I haven't been perfect with that. You know, I have gone through stages of anger, and I'm not all love and light, you know, all the time. And we can't be. We have to go through those stages of grief and trauma. And I haven't been this loving being all my life. I've tried to be, but you get caught up in what's happening, that you think is happening to you, and you respond, and you can respond with bad words or whatever like that. But I do try to make the commitment now, is how would I respond with love in this moment? And that's just the
Yeah.
question I ask myself. And you know, I meditate now. I mean, I quit alcohol a few years ago. I try to eat well. I try to be the person that I couldn't be when I was younger, because you do have to go through all those struggles. And I'm at that really strong, grounded place now. And I think for me, nature is so healing, and dancing has been a real healing antidote to me, and music, you know, the frequency of music, and then meeting my frequency family is where I'm at now. And I'm just so grateful for all the people who have come into my world lately, who have seen me and supported me. And I just want to thank you, anyone that's watching that's one of those people. Just, yeah, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being there for me and seeing me for who I am. Ah, I thought I was finished with the tears.
I think it's a perfectly beautiful and vulnerable place to just honor you, actually.
Thank you. And tears are
Yeah,
okay.
thank
I used
you.
to say tears are what is it? Cleansing liquid from the soul. So don't anyone
Yeah,
tell you not to cry.
no,
It's
no.
healing. And that's why I've
Yeah,
also
it's a
learned
blessing.
to stop saying I'm sorry when I cry. I'm like, you know how you automatically go to I'm sorry? I've had to pull back
Mm,
and just let the tears come out, because so many people are used to saying, oh, I can't cry and I need to say sorry.
Yeah.
but it's healing for you. So cry as much as you need to move the trauma and move the grief out of your system, even if it's in public.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yep.
this episode should be sponsored by a Kleenex.
Should be sponsored by Robert Schwartz is what it should be sponsored by.
I know, and maybe that's actually who I would love to interview on my podcast next.
Oh, seriously, like, yeah, yeah. Wow. Yeah,
We'll see.
that book just blows my mind. Blows my mind. But so like just a little bit of kind of wrap up stuff.
Yes,
Like you know, where can people find you? Where can they find your podcast? Where they can find your websites? And we'll give it to the beautiful Billy, who's the person who makes things happen behind me, who doesn't know how to make things happen, because I am 56 and technology is not always my greatest friend.
I'm glad that you have Billy. Yes. So
Thank you.
we all need that support team around us. So my website is beccarich.love, and people can find me
Yes.
there. I have the Voices of Visionaries channel, voicesofvisionaries.com.au, where people can look at the podcast. I have LinkedIn, I have Instagram and TikTok, but I rarely use those. I mean, you can get overwhelmed with so many social media channels, and I am thinking of reducing them. The
Yeah.
less is more kind of approach. I have the YouTube channel now that I've created not long ago, that I'm slowly adding in all my content and my videos. It does take time, especially when you're repurposing podcast episodes for YouTube. So if people want to start following my content and watching my videos, the YouTube channel is called Becca Rich Love. As you'll see, there's a love thing going on here.
There's a lot of love.
You should see how much love is around my house. Love cups, love pictures, love everywhere. I've even got a love sign on my house, so people that are driving by can see it.
I can feel the
They can feel the love. Life School is also out there. LIFESKOOL. People can go on there and contact me. But ultimately, yeah, I just want to say that shine your light bright, guys, and don't let anyone dim it. And be
yeah.
who you are, and you know, if anything of my words has resonated with you today, then I'm really pleased, because that's why we do these things. You know, it's not easy telling your story, but I do it because I want to. Hopefully, if I can inspire one person with my story, then I'm happy. But
Yeah.
thank you for giving me this opportunity and for being my first podcast as
Oh,
a guest.
what a blessing. What an absolute blessing. I really yeah, I just feel like, you know, all the synchronicities and all the things that led us to even meeting in the first place, and then how that's kind of extrapolated. I just like there's obviously deep purpose and soul contracts in that as well.
I met you
So I just, you
volunteering.
know,
Do you remember?
I met you volunteering with Jasper Valance. Hey
We were
Jasper.
volunteering at a ecstatic dance without any drugs or alcohol. So isn't it funny when you look at my life and where I've come from, that I'm now going
Yeah.
to drug and alcohol free parties, and I don't take drugs, and um it's just
Yep.
it's
That's
beautiful
another
that we
circle
can meet
closing.
humans along the way. Pardon?
That was another circle closing. Like, you know, drugs, alcohol, party, drugs, alcohol, party. Oh, party, no drugs, no alcohol, party, no drugs. Like that's, yeah.
Does that mean
That's
we're
why I
going to
was
be going
there.
backwards? Like next, is it a vicious cycle? I don't think so, because
I mean, hey, look, you know,
once
I'm
you've
not
gone
planning on it.
alcohol free, I think once you've gone alcohol free, you never look back. Like I don't even miss it now. I wake up high vibe nearly every morning, as long as I haven't had bad sleep, and alcohol used to just dampen that, right? So it's just getting rid of all that toxic stuff that's out there, and And yeah, as I said before, just living in love in our heart and being as pure as we can without all the crap coming towards us. But
Yep.
thank you
Yeah.
again. I really appreciate you've done such an amazing job, considering this is your second one, and you've held space really well. And it's been a conversation, and I feel really held. So you're a natural at this, and I'm sure you'll overtake Voices of Visionaries very soon.
No, it's not even about that. Obviously, I want to, like, how can we grow each other? You know what I mean? I'm sitting here thinking, you need to speak to Kian. He's like Humankinder is his podcast. He's amazing interviewer. He's like a lovely guy. I'm thinking, you know, how can we help each other, right? How can like we support each other and direct each other to other like-minded souls, and how can we help everything that we're all doing grow together? Like
Yeah,
that is so important to me, and like know that I have to step through everything, my old competition paradigm, all the control stuff that I used to have, to step into creating that in the world. And I think that's the most important thing. And I'm like, how can I help you? How can I help Kian? How can I help? And because I know we're all helping each other, you know, and
you
you
will,
being
and
here
you
is
are.
helping so much.
Yeah, you will, and you are,
Yeah.
Tim. And we're all very lucky to have you on this planet, shining your light
Thank
bright.
you.
And you and your beautiful Elise and your daughter and your soon to be son. And I'm just so happy that
Yep.
there's people out there in the world like you. And um, yeah, just really happy that we met and grateful for this opportunity. So thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you, sister. Thank you. You still here? You still here? Oh, you're still here. Oh, wow. Amazing. Well done. You're still here. This is our Marvel moment. If you don't know what a Marvel moment is, that's okay. That's okay too. We love you anyway. But just so you know, who's about to come on your screen is the person who's been going to be on this podcast in the next fortnight. So you can put it in your calendar. We can't give you a snippet of what they're going to say because you just have to show up. And if you're game enough to do that, you will get incredible outcomes. See you on the other side.